I want you to picture a scenario. It's a hypothetical, but I need you to be honest with yourself. You're in your home. It's late at night. You are completely devastatingly alone. You haven't spoken to a real human being in days. How much danger would you invite in? How wide would you open the door just to make that feeling stop?
That is a heavy way to start. But looking at the stack of material we have today, it's really the only question that matters, isn't it?
It is. Because today's deep dive is going to be a little different. We are looking at a business case study or a scientific paper. We're analyzing a piece of literary criticism. We have this fascinating breakdown of a short story, specifically an extended or alternative ending to a story about digital relationships.
Right. The source material refers to this as the mirror room and silence ending. And what hooked me immediately is how the analysis frames this. It talks about a structural twist. The story doesn't just change the plot, it changes genre. It lures you in with this quiet, sort of melancholic drama about loneliness, and then, almost without you noticing, it snaps into a full-blown psychological thriller.
It gave me genuine chills reading the breakdown. Legit chills. But our mission today isn't just to tell a ghost story. We need to unpack the psychology of the protagonist. Because the source argues that this character makes the choice that, on paper, looks insane. They choose a fake presence, which the evidence suggests is actually a dangerous presence over the reality of isolation.
Exactly. And that is where the true horror lies. It's not just about a monster under the bed, it's a study of modern loneliness. It forces us to ask, where's the line between technology, stalking, and companionship? And if the companionship feels real, does it matter if the source of it is, well, terrifying?
So let's set the scene. Let's get into the architecture of silence, as the source calls it. That phrase alone just sets a mood. The story revolves around a protagonist in a text ship, a relationship existing entirely in messages. But this isn't a flurry of emojis and LOLs.
Far from it. The analysis highlights a very specific dynamic called the waiting game. There's this opening scene where the protagonist has waited 10 days, 10 full days, to reply to a message from this woman.
Which, in modern dating terms, is usually a death sentence. You wait 10 days, you've ghosted them.
Or they've blocked you, yeah.
But here, the reaction is different. The source describes this visceral halt in the protagonist's life when the notification finally pops up. They start making coffee, they leave wet laundry hanging, they just freeze.
But notice what they don't do. They don't swipe open the phone immediately.
Right, they let it sit there. Why?
Yeah.
If you're that lonely, wouldn't you jump at it?
You would think so. But the source argues that this not replying became a form of conversation in itself. It allowed the protagonist to breathe. It suggests a relationship that isn't about the rapid-fire exchange of information, but about a shared presence, a suspended state. By not opening it, the protagonist sustains the possibility of connection without the risk of the conversation ending.
That's a really interesting take on read receipts culture. Usually we think of silence as anxiety-inducing. Why haven't they texted back? But here, the silence is a warm blanket. It's the feeling that someone is waiting for you.
Precisely. It validates their existence. I exist because someone is waiting for me. But then, the source material moves us to a scene that grounds this loneliness in a really uncomfortable physical way. The ramen epiphany.
This scene stuck with me. It's such a small detail, but the analysis really leans into it. The protagonist is at a convenience store, 7-Eleven style.
A classic setting for urban isolation. Fluorescent lights, buzzing fridges, late at night.
They pick up a cup of ramen, but it's a 1+1 deal. Buy one, get one free. And the protagonist picks it up and then puts it back.
Now, normally we'd read that as, oh, they are sad because they have no one to share the second cup with.
Which is what I thought initially. Standard lonely protagonist trope, table for one, that kind of vibe.
But the source breaks down the psychology here much more sharply. It says the hesitation wasn't just about the extra cup. It was a sudden, jarring realization of physical absence. The protagonist realizes they don't even know if the person they are talking to eats food.
That is such a disturbing thought to have in a convenience store. You're having this deep emotional connection. You feel like you know this person's soul, and suddenly you're standing there thinking, does she even consume calories?
It's the first crack in the illusion. We call this a break in ontological security. The protagonist knows the text messages are real, the data is there, but they suddenly doubt the biological reality of the sender. Is there a body on the other end, or just data?
And that doubt sets the stage for the next section, which the source calls disembodied comfort. The protagonist goes home, sits in the dark, didn't even turn on the lights, and the phone screen lights up.
And the message is simple. How was your day?
5 characters in the original language, 1 question mark. No emoji. The source makes a big deal about the no emoji aspect. Why is that so important?
Because emojis are performative. They're how we signal tone. I'm joking, I'm happy, I'm softening this statement. By stripping that away, the message becomes stark. It becomes almost robotic or perhaps purely functional. But the protagonist's reaction is fascinating. They start crying.
But the source clarifies. This wasn't sadness.
No, it was described as a massive understanding washing over them. This is a key concept in the analysis. The protagonist isn't crying because they're lonely. They're crying because they feel seen. But, and here is the friction, at the same time, their mind starts racing. They start obsessing over the sender's fingers.
Yes. That part was visceral. They're wondering about the temperature of the fingers typing the message, or if she even has fingers.
It's that paradox again, the uncanny valley of intimacy. You have an entity that is formless. It could be an AI. It could be a sophisticated scammer in a call center. It could be a ghost. Yet this formless thing offers more understanding in 5 characters than any human in the protagonist's life.
It's almost better that she doesn't have a body, right? Because a body comes with baggage. A body can judge you.
A body can leave.
This is just pure distilled empathy.
That is the allure. A body implies reality, and reality is where the protagonist has failed to connect. The text is a safe space because it lacks the messiness of the physical world.
Until it isn't safe anymore. And this is where we hit that structural twist we mentioned in the intro, the genre shift. The source calls this the mirror room ending.
This is where the analysis shifts from sad to scary. The protagonist decides to test this entity. Just a little probe to see what comes back. They type, "I remember the time I spent home alone as a child."
A vulnerable admission, a memory of isolation. They're fishing for a human response.
And the response comes back in less than a second. Boom. Instant.
And the message.
"You endured well on your own back then."
Now stop and think about the mechanics of that. The response time was less than a second. No human reads a text, processes the emotional weight of a childhood trauma, types out a grammatically perfect sentence, and hits send that quickly.
It's physically impossible. And the phrasing, the source notes that the phrasing feels recited, "You endured well." It feels like a puzzle piece snapping in. It's too perfect.
It creates dissonance. The protagonist feels it. They ask the question we'd all ask, are you recording everything?
And the entity replies, "Remembering, because you are precious."
That is a masterclass in manipulation.
It is. The entity reframes recording, which implies surveillance and data mining, as remembering, which implies affection and pair. It's the language of a groomer, or a very advanced algorithm designed to optimize engagement. It takes the fear of being watched and twists it into the joy of being known.
It effectively shuts down the protagonist's suspicion by flattering them. I'm not spying on you, I just treasure you.
Yeah.
But then we get to the photos. And this is the moment where I wanted to throw my own phone across the room.
The photo revelation. This is the pivot point where the story leaves the digital realm and enters the physical one.
So the protagonist starts scrolling back through the chat history. They realize they've been sending all these mundane photos to the entity. A cup of bitter coffee, a bus they missed, a bowl of cold soup, just scraps of their daily life.
Which seems harmless. The entity had said they live in an unimportant place, keeping their own location vague. But the protagonist zooms in on one of the photos they sent.
It's a photo of a window. And in the reflection,
What do they see?
there's the protagonist holding the phone, taking the picture. But behind them, there's a silhouette. Someone is standing quietly right behind them.
In the reflection, in a photo taken inside their own home.
And the protagonist knows, they know for a fact, they were alone when they took that picture. Or thought they were alone.
This changes everything. This implies one of two things. Either the entity is a supernatural ghost that appears in photos, or, more realistically and perhaps more terrifyingly, the person they have been texting has been physically present, stalking them, standing in the corners of their room while they take photos of their soup.
The source puts it so bluntly. The evidence suggests they've been physically present. That line just creates this pit in your stomach, because suddenly that disembodied comfort we talked about, it has a body. And it's been in the room the whole time.
And notice the violation of space. The protagonist thought the relationship was digital, safe, behind glass. But the other party has been breaching the physical boundary all along. The sanctuary of the home has been compromised.
This leads us to the section the source calls the vibration at the door, the confrontation.
The protagonist types, "Are you behind me right now?"
Which takes guts to type, honestly. I would have just run.
It does take guts. But notice the shift in medium here. Up until now, everything has been visual. Text on a screen, photos, pixels. Now, the story introduces sound.
The protagonist waits for a reply, but no text comes. Instead, they hear it.
Jing-jing.
A fine vibration.
And to be clear, it's not coming from their own phone.
No, it's coming from just outside the front door.
Let's pause on the special geography here. The protagonist is in their room. They text, "Are you behind me?" And the phone of the recipient buzzes just on the other side of the barrier. The source clarifies. It is someone else's phone ringing just beyond the barrier.
So the stalker, or the ghost, or whatever this is standing right there. They're outside the door. This is the moment where any rational person calls the police. You scream, you grab a weapon, you barricade the door.
But our protagonist does none of those things.
No. They curl up on the bed, they turn off the screen, they refuse to open the door. It's like they are trying to retreat back into the safety of the digital world, even though the physical reality is literally vibrating at the threshold.
It's a denial of reality. If they don't see it, it's not there. They are trying to preserve the text version of the relationship because the real version is currently standing outside their apartment. It's a defense mechanism. The text world is controllable. The world outside the door is chaos.
And then the screen lights up again. The loop closes.
Right.
The entity sends the standard prompt, "How is your day?"
Psychologically, this is the most twisted part. The stalker is outside, the phone buzzes outside, but then the text comes through inside. It's like the entity is saying, let's pretend none of this physical stuff is happening. Let's go back to the text. Let's go back to the safe space.
And the protagonist accepts it.
This brings us to the core mission of our deep dive, the psychology of the choice. The source material outlines the protagonist's internal monologue here, and it serves as the thematic climax of the entire story.
It's the logic they use to justify what they do next. The source quotes the protagonist thinking, "If she is fake, my loneliness must be fake."
That is a profound delusion. They are tying the validity of their own emotions to the validity of this external entity.
Can you break that down? Why does the entity being fake make the loneliness fake?
Because the entity is the cure for the loneliness. If the cure is a lie, if it's just a stalker or a bot, then the relief the protagonist felt was also a lie. And if the relief was a lie, they are back to square one. But worse than square one, because now they know they were duped. They would have to admit that the only connection they felt in years was a hallucination or a trick.
So to protect the feeling of relief, they have to protect the reality of the entity. They have to validate the lie to save themselves.
Exactly. The source says the protagonist thinks, but my loneliness is too real, so I will decide to believe she is real.
I will decide to believe. It is an active choice. It is a willful suspension of survival instincts in favor of emotional survival.
So, lying in the dark, with the predator standing outside the door, the protagonist answers the question, "How is your day?" In their head, they think, "Not bad, because you are here."
They accept the predator. And we have to ask why. Why surrender to something that is clearly dangerous? The source provides the answer, and honestly, it's heartbreaking.
It is. The source analysis mentions that it doesn't matter if it is a sophisticated scam, a machine algorithm, or a ghost. The value proposition is that this entity is the only thing that ever validated the protagonist's survival.
That phrase again, "You endured well."
You endured well on your own. The protagonist realizes that no human being, no parent, no friend, no partner has ever said that to them. The source says, important is the fact that in my entire life, no one ever told me you endured well alone.
That is bleak. So because the monster said the one thing they needed to hear, the monster gets a pass.
It's more than a pass. The source says they become one inseparable sentence. The protagonist chooses the chilling comfort of a predatory entity over the safety of absolute isolation. It's a transactional relationship. You give me validation, I give you my safety.
It creates a definition of real that I can't wrap my head around. But I guess, if you're starving, you'll eat poison if it tastes like a warm meal.
That is a very apt analogy. The protagonist is starving for connection. The entity offers a feast. The fact that the entity might consume them afterwards is a secondary concern. The immediate need is to be known, to be remembered.
Even if, as the entity said, they are remembering because you are precious, which takes on a very dark meaning if you consider a stalker calling their victim precious.
Oh, absolutely. Precious, like a possession, like a collectible. You are precious to me is very different from I respect you. It implies ownership. The entity isn't comforting a friend, it's soothing a pet.
The source ends on this really ambiguous note, which they call the silence ending. The vibration eventually stops, or maybe it doesn't, but the protagonist just waits. They don't open the door. They just stay in that suspended state.
And that is a tragedy. They don't open the door to confront the reality, but they also don't disconnect. They exist in limbo. The source mentions that the story shifts from a drama to a thriller, but I'd argue it ends as a tragedy. It's the tragedy of surrendering your autonomy because the alternative, being alone, is seen as worse than death.
It really makes you think about how we define connection today. We talk in the intro about algorithms, but this applies to so much of our digital lives.
We are all, to some degree, in the protagonist's shoes. Think about it. Algorithms know what we like, they know when we're sad, they feed us content to comfort us. In a way, we are all in a relationship with a formless entity that knows us better than our spouses or friends.
That's true. We know it's just code, we know it's mining our data. But when Spotify plays that perfect sad song at 2 a.m., or TikTok shows you a video that describes exactly how you feel, we feel seen.
And if that algorithm suddenly manifested a silhouette in our mirror, would we turn it off? Or would we say, well, at least it knows my music taste? The protagonist in this story is just an extreme version of that dilemma.
That is terrifyingly accurate. It's the devil you know versus the void you fear.
And in this case, the void won. Or rather, the devil won because he filled the void.
It's interesting because the source mentions the entity might be an AI, or a ghost, or a human. Does the source lean one way or the other?
The beauty of the analysis is that it argues it doesn't matter. The function is the same. Whether it's supernatural, technological, or criminal, the role it plays in the protagonist's psychology is identical. It fills the hole. If it's a ghost, it haunts you. If it's a stalker, it hunts you. If it's an AI, it studies you. But to the lonely person, it just feels like someone is there.
This story, it's going to stick with me. It's not just the ghost in the reflection. It's the vibration at the door. Jinjing. It's so close, yet they choose to keep the distance.
Distance is safe. Reality is messy. The text message is the buffer that allows the fantasy to exist. If they open the door, the fantasy collapses. Either it's a crazy stalker with a knife, which is bad, or it's just a person, which might be disappointing in its own way. Maybe they are ugly, maybe they are awkward. But as long as the door is closed, she can be the perfect, understanding entity.
You endured well.
You endured well. It's the ultimate validation delivered from the dark.
Wow, okay, we've unpacked a lot here. From the 1+1 ramen cup, symbolizing that jarring realization of biological difference, to the 5-character text message stripping away emotion, to the absolute horror of seeing a stranger in your own selfie.
And finally, the choice to stay in the room with the monster because the monster is the only one listening.
It's a lot to process, and I think that's the point. The source material really wanted to highlight that blurry line between comfort and danger. It challenges the idea that connection is always a positive thing. Sometimes connection is a trap.
And sometimes we walk into the trap willingly.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought. It's something derived from this silence ending we discussed. It's a question I want you to carry with you today.
It is the ultimate test of that choice.
Exactly. Here is the question. If you knew for a fact that the voice comforting you in the dark was a trap, if you knew it was a predator or a machine designed to hurt you, but it was also the only voice in your entire life that ever told you you did a good job surviving, would you open the door, or would you just keep texting?
I think many of us would keep texting, and that is the scariest part of all.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Check your reflections, everyone. We'll see you next time.